We want to talk about one of our top stories right now, and that's the high-stakes summit that's kicking off in Vietnam. President Trump has met with North Korean leader Kim Jong this morning. The president touting his relationship with the North Korean dictator, saying he has high hopes for North Korea's economic success. Our panel today includes Bell Point Asset Management, David Nelson, and Yahoo Finance's Scott Gamm. David, let me start with you. It's not the kind of thing necessarily that would drive markets. In fact, I could make the argument that what we're witnessing right now on the Dow probably has more to do with Robert Lighthizer. But you can't ignore the summit with a nuclear power.
It's a historic moment right now, but it seems like we're going to need a new definition here. What is denuclearization? Because it seems what we think it is and what Kim thinks it is are two totally different things here. We're going to see how this pans out. I think the president is starting this off on an economic note. He's starting off with a big carrot. He's saying, look at Vietnam, look at the growth of this country, this could be yours.
Well, look, you go back in 2017 when the tensions between the U.S. and North Korea were really heating up. You did see the markets dip on a short-term basis. And remember, 2017 was record low volatility, and North Korea was big enough to tank the markets, at least on an intraday basis. They soon recovered. And anyone in 2017 would tell you the big tail risk for the market was North Korea. But now, 2 years later, I mean, even though there's no real progress on getting a deal with North Korea or getting them to denuclearize, there is still that risk is off the table for the markets.
Well, right. I mean, basically, if you're not going to have an imminent risk of nuclear conflict, even if you're not having a great deal,
you're not seeing missiles fly over the Sea of Japan. We're not waking up with the futures down 300 points because of it.
All right, so let's bring in Director of Asia at Eurasia Group, Scott Seaman. Scott, thank you for joining us. I know we've got you on the telephone. As we take a look at what's happening in this summit, is there any way an investor should be considering playing it, or is this just a news item that is very important, but it really doesn't impact us?
I think what we've seen develop over time, as you may remember a couple of years ago in the summer of 2017, when a lot of people were actually worried about whether we were going to war or whether there was going to be some sort of, military strike. Investors at that time were obviously asking a very binary question. Are we closer to conflict or moving further away? I think it's probably much more nuanced now. People have already gone through exercises looking at their supply chains, for example, trying to figure out what they would do in the event of a conflict in Northeast Asia. But things have calmed down quite a bit, and so what we've been seeing rather interestingly is a lot of movement around stocks that have exposure to the idea that North Korea would open up economically at some point in the future.
And Scott, I would ask you as well, as someone who closely watches the region, another way in which the narrative has shifted from that time is that at the time, the North Korean leader was portrayed as incredibly unpredictable, as something of a madman, someone who could perhaps bring us to the brink of war at any time. That really seems to have receded. Has he changed, or is it just that our perception of the situation has changed?
I think the easy answer to that is we have no idea whether he has had some sort of a change of heart or if we're just seeing more of the same, perhaps played, in a slightly different way given the U.S. president. But yes, I mean, I think that the main concern has normally been, is this going to lead to something devastating in Northeast Asia? And now I think people are talking a lot more about the possibility of sanctions being eased and more room being created for some potential projects with North Korea, perhaps infrastructure, for example.
All right, Scott Seaman, Director of Asia at the Eurasia Group, thank you so much.